This is the TSG Multimedia Podcast for November of 2024. We're sponsored this month by the TSG Train Crew on Patreon. Find out how you can support the content you love at patreon.com/tsgmultimedia. ModelRailroadControlSystems.com, electronics for operations. And by Podomatic, a podcast hosting and distributing platform. Thank you very much. I'm your host, John, and you're tuned in to the longest continuously running train-related podcast of the 21st century, bringing you the best train-related stuff since 2010. This month, we'll be talking about the Central Coast Railroad Festival, archiving important historic artifacts, and a lot more. Now, just a quick reminder, there are two options that show up on YouTube for the monthly podcast. One has a square thumbnail, and the other has a rectangular thumbnail. The square one contains only audio. The rectangular one is the full video and audio podcast. So if you want to see everything that I'm talking about, remember to select the TSG podcast that has the rectangular thumbnail. Supporting this channel on Patreon is as cheap as 7 cents a day, and you get weekly behind-the-scenes updates as well as sneak peeks, and sometimes they're even months ahead of the public release. If you don't like the idea of a recurring monthly donation, sign up for the year and get 10% off. Or you can also use the PayPal link listed in the description of every program that comes out on this channel. If you use PayPal, it doesn't get you the same benefits as a Patreon subscription, but it does help us. Then, of course, if you're not in a position to support us financially, liking and sharing the programs on this channel also helps a lot. All I'm asking is for each and every one of our viewers to take one of these actions to help us bring the content that you enjoy every week to the world. Thanks so much for your continued support. This is Paul Deese. You probably remember Paul. He's been on the channel a number of times now. And we have our top secret person in the back there who's not top secret anymore. And this weekend is the Central Coast Railroad Festival, CCRF. And we did this video a couple of years ago about this event, and we had so much fun, we decided to do it again. So this is what we're doing, and this is day one. So we'll come back with more updates as we go. Before I go, though, do you want to say anything about this?
No, just looking forward to sharing some of the great layouts of the San Luis Obispo County area.
And let's go see a whole lot of layouts.
Yeah, we're going to see a bunch of layouts. You'll like this. One of the really great things about the Central Coast is that they have Central Coast trains. This is a train shop that's been here for something like 30 years. And it's run by a lady named Anita, who I met her first about 2 years ago. And it really struck me how easy it was that I could tell that she really cares about what she's doing here and cares about her customers. And so this is one of our stops on our video making process. Also, Paul had to get some stuff here. And so we're going to shoot a little blurb for the video that I'm making today here, not as an ad for the shop, but because they're actually open, they have layouts inside. They actually have something like 4 layouts in here, including N scale and HO and other stuff. It's really a cool place, and for a brick and mortar shop, it's just a real treasure for the people that live around here. All right, so this is a little bit later, obviously, and we're in a place called Oceano, and we're at the Oceano Depot. They actually have some layouts set up inside the depot that's like modular stuff, but I've wanted to come here for a long time because I did a TSG Live model railroading episode, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, with a guy from the UK named Brian Moore, who models this area. And this is the only time I've had a chance to be in the actual place. So I've been thinking about Brian while we're here. Hi, Brian. So this is a little bit later, and as part of my duties today, I'm keeping trains running at Paul's layout during his open house. So I've been running my second train down the hill right now, and I'll show you what it looks like.
So actually I could build what was there in the 40s. And the only thing I fudged on in 49 It was funny, I was showing it one day to a person, and I touched that light, and I got a static discharge, and it killed the LED.
Hi, well, this is the next day, and we had a nice open house at Paul's last night, where I showed you I was helping keep the trains moving. And we're out again. This is day 2 of the Central Coast Railroad Festival. And the first stop we're making is at Anita's place where her late husband had a really nice Western Pacific layout. And we'll show you some of that when we get in there.
Hey, everybody.
It's this guy again.
Yeah.
And that gal in the back.
Yep, I'm coming down here.
It's the weekend. You're supposed to be able to close up these schools.
Yeah. I go to these things. People see this. They've never done it before, but they know.
At his graduation, I was there, his grandfather was there, and it's got to be Mike showing me around. So it was cool. We had 3 generations of Marines. He's in Baltimore, so we're going back there. But
As I said, as we were going in, it was built by a guy named Carl, and he was Anita's husband, actually. Anita from the Central Coast Train Shop. And it's a really good depiction of Western Pacific, Feather River Canyon. And it's in its own purpose-built building, kind of an outbuilding on the property. And I really want to come back down here sometime and document that.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those layouts that really deserves to be documented. So that's it for this stop, and we'll be back later with some more updates. Our second stop today was at the county library. You're thinking, oh, what kind of books are you checking out? No, we're not checking out books today. The Orange County engineers are set up here with N-Track and T-Track, which is pretty cool. T-Track is really becoming a thing these days, isn't it? We just did a whole layout video this past summer at something called E24 that was T-Track, N-Track, and Fremo N. Well, these guys have N-Track and T-Track set up in here, and the modeling on some of these modules is really good. They're doing a lot for the hobby by showing up to shows like this and interfacing with the public. So great layouts to look at, and a great group of folks. Well, our next stop is at a garden railroad. This is a garden scale. It looks like it's FN3. So they have a Shay running over here. That's a replica of a West Side Shay. It's a nice little layout. It's kind of compact. Well, on this end, and it has a really long run, probably 80 or 90 feet down to the other end where there's another loop. It's really nice. And the nicest thing I'm enjoying here is that there's this really pleasant, cool breeze. So I'm just kind of sitting here enjoying it for a minute. Okay, so we're done at the Arroyo Grande Valley Railroad. That's Chuck Jordan's layout, garden scale. Super cool. Seemed like a super nice guy. He got him talking on camera. He's quite a character. And we're off to our next one, and I'll check in with you when we get there. I like how it's a garden. It's really garden. As soon as you walk in, you see a lot of native plants and little pathways through the backyard, and a lot of really cool little scenes. And these little egg liner things that run along the fence was kind of cool. It was sort of whimsical because the track is not straight and it's not level. It bends and droops. It's just kind of weird.
I like he had one loop of track that's DC powered, just so when kids come, he can give them the throttle and let them run and train in a circle, and they can't hurt anything. And it's great for the little kids.
Yep. That was one thing I noticed almost immediately. He was trying to let kids run train. So it's what we always talk about on this channel, is getting kids into it and giving them the power and the opportunity to run something. So great job, Will. Well, good morning. It's the next day, and we're about ready to start our third day of looking at layouts in the Central Coast area. So yesterday we saw some pretty cool layouts and met some really nice people, actually. So I'm expecting more of the same today. And we're here with these people. What do you guys think?
I'm looking forward to seeing 2 garden railroads I've never seen before in the Santa Maria Valley Historical Museum. That should be cool.
Yeah.
And maybe get to see some full-size trains today, too.
Yeah, we're hoping to crash the Santa Maria Valley Railroad, and maybe they'll be working. You never know. But it's Sunday, so I'm a little skeptical. But on their website, it says they work every day of the week. But that might just be to sell the idea to customers. Who knows? We'll find out. All right, so that first layout we went to was very interesting because when we walked in, I'm looking at it going, oh, it's just like raised track. As we walked in, I thought, oh, that's interesting. And it turns out that the guy we were just at, Jeff Clinton, has live steam. So it's a garden railroad dedicated to live steam, and he has it's like a figure 8 configuration. And he does only live steam, and he has a lot of very interesting live steam equipment. We saw some of it. One of them was really cool. It's this 0660 articulated live steamer that Jeff bought from a guy who scratch builds these things over in Germany. And it's just a really impressive model. A cool layout, too. So if you ever get out to the Central Coast Railroad Festival, it would be worth going to see Jeff's live steam stuff. Hi, we just finished up looking at layouts for the day, and we're headed back to Paul's place. And I think that concludes the, coverage, if you will, of the Central Coast Railroad Festival for the podcast in any case. And thanks, Paul, for, doing the work of figuring out where to go and all that.
Sure, it was fun.
It was fun.
I love sharing our Central Coast, both model and prototype railroads, with as many people as possible.
Yeah. So
hope to see more of you someday here.
Yeah. And the program that I'm working on, just so you know, is kind of a dual purpose thing. I'm going to put together a video that sort of shows what we've been doing for the past few days, plus what we did 2 years ago, and put it all together because it'll end up showcasing about 10 or 12 events or places or layouts that people can come see on the Central Coast during the Central Coast Railroad Festival. And it will also dual purpose as the same thing for our convention for the PCR next year. So it's kind of a 2 birds with 1 stone thing. So anyway, I'll come in with more updates. We have a layout shoot tomorrow at the San Luis Obispo Model Railroad Museum. Or actually Railroad Museum, I guess, but they have a model railroad there. So we'll be back with more updates for the podcast soon. Hi, we're doing something railroad related today. As you know from the past few minutes of podcast, we're out at the Central Coast Railroad Festival for the weekend. Well, this is Monday now, and I don't remember if I mentioned it before, but we're at the San Luis Obispo Railroad Museum, which obviously is in San Luis Obispo, adjacent to the Amtrak station, and the tracks are just off camera here to my left outside. And we're doing a model railroad layout tour of the layout that they have in this building. This is an old freight house, I think from the late 1800s. That was Southern Pacific. And as you can see behind me, they have a very impressive museum here. And the model railroad layout in the room that's behind the camera here is equally impressive. And what's really cool about it is it's HON3 as well as HO, the majority being HO scale, standard gauge. And it depicts accurately and very prototypically accurate scenes, the local history of what went on in this area in the 1950s. So we're documenting that today. I first saw this museum about 2 years ago. And I knew as soon as I saw it that I had to document it because they've done such a great job with not only the museum, but with the historical, value of the layout that's representing local history. And so it's just a really impressive museum and layout to visit if you're interested in learning about history, because they've done a lot of work to preserve it here. the guy who's in charge of the layout and has basically supervised the entire building of it is a master model railroader certified by the NMRA, and you can tell in the attention to detail in the scenes on it. The other cool thing, as I mentioned earlier, is it's documenting relevant local history quite well. So just a little recommendation there. If you're around this area, be sure to come to this museum and check out the museum and the layout. They're both very worthwhile. All right, so this is actually the following day. This is Tuesday. We drove home last night after filming all day. It was a long day of shooting and just being on, as they call it. And I have a few thoughts about the weekend to reflect on. Overall, it was a very, well, I want to say it was relaxing, but it wasn't because we were working, but it was kind of recreational because we got to see a lot of really cool stuff. And we weren't on the whole time, meaning working the whole time. So there was a lot of looking at layouts, checking out places that I've wanted to see, like the Oceano Depot. Had never seen that before, and I'd only heard about it. And so it was a very satisfying weekend. I'll put it that way. And I do want to thank our hosts, Paul and Dorothy, who did just a wonderful time making us feel at home, very hospitable, and it's greatly appreciated. And Paul, who went around and hosted the video that I'm working on, also helped a lot because he's the one who picked out the places that we were going to go and knew the things that we needed to know to pick out the best places for this particular excursion out there. So thank you very much. And, can't say it enough. A lot of people help to make these things happen. And a lot of these things don't happen without their help. And so, there's a debt of gratitude there. So anyway, last thought on this is the layout yesterday, the layout tour. The San Luis Obispo Railroad Museum is not only a layout, but a full museum with a ton of artifacts and all kinds of history packed into the freight house. And then again, they have that wonderful layout that we documented that's also documenting that same history for the local area. And I'm going to say something that shouldn't be controversial at all here, which is if you're starting up a 501c3 or any kind of a historical society or anything like that, that's going to have a model railroad layout that's also a museum, seriously consider making your layout prototypically accurate to the area that your museum is trying to preserve and interpret the history of, because it really puts on display what was there in basically live action so that people visiting can see how things worked and why things were built the way they were, what was there, what the industries were that were being served, why that's important to the development of the area, and even to its modern, contemporary current history. There's a lot to be said for presenting a piece of history in model form. And if you can do that, like I said, if you're just starting out or if you're reworking the layout at your museum, seriously consider doing that, because I think that adds a lot of value to the visitor and to what you're trying to do as a museum. So that's it for now. Again, great weekend, great, 3 or 4 days. It was actually 4 days. Thank you so much, Paul and Dorothy. And that's it for this update. Hi, we did something volunteer related today. That's also train related. We're in the waiting room at the SBHRS at Santa Clara Depot here. And you can see we have a table set up back here that's a very well lit surface. And we've been documenting all the china that's stored in this room as part of a archiving process because the SBHRS is actually a museum. It's not just layouts that are over in the freight room. So this has been a project starting, what time was it, Robin, when we started? 9 or 10 or something? 10:30. And we're about 3 or 4 hours into it. It seems like it takes a long time because we're having to be really specific about what these things are. And a lot of times you can't tell what they are because they're not labeled. And so anyway, it's a interesting process and just another way of volunteering here at the SBHRS. And as part of this process, we have someone actually entering all this stuff into a database of some sort. What is this?
Yeah, so we created a spreadsheet to input all the information, which is like the artifact number and the type of thing that we're entering. We're describing it as well as much as we can, and its location in the museum. So we're putting all that into a spreadsheet, which will then be merged with our museum database software.
All right, so we finished what we were doing for now. Today's work, that was 4+ hours. And we cataloged a little under 200 items, I think. What was it, 100 and what?
167.
167 items. And this museum has a lot of stuff. So this was day one of many, many days looking to the future of volunteering to catalog the museum's collection. Yay. On October 16th, we went live with last month's episode of Talking Trains. Murph and I were joined by our friends Pat LaTorres and recently retired legendary railroad conductor Mike Osborne to talk about the holy wars of the hobby. Not only was this a fun conversation, but I also learned about some perspectives I hadn't really considered before. It's definitely worth catching on the replay if you missed us live. I'm over here at Seth Neumann's place, and we did some recording for some Class 1 Model Works product spotlights. And usually when I'm here, it's for something else, and we happen to do the Class 1. This time I'm here for Class 1, and we're happening to do something else, which is what I'm going to ask you to talk about right now, which is coming up early next year, we have what we call the SIG meet. And I wanted to make sure to put this on everybody's radar because for the past, 3 or 4 years at the SIG meet, we've been continuing to have a virtual option, which means that anybody from anywhere in the world can join us for basically a day of really good programs and presentations. What do you want to say about it? Because you're one of the main guys, right? You've been organizing this thing for years.
Yeah, I've been doing this since 2001 or 2. So long time. Happily, we have a whole new generation of people involved. One of the things that came out of the pandemic, as bad as it was the virtual component to a lot of our activities, and the SIG meet has really done well. So first of all, it's the annual Pacific Coast Region PCR Layout Design and Operations Weekend meet. And some of the SIGs don't like to have their names involved in sponsorship. So, obviously layout design and operations SIG are involved, or at least the local leadership of those. But this is an event that's put on as part of the Pacific Coast region, which is Northern California, Northern Nevada, and actually goes about halfway down the state of California, as one of our annual activities. And it is, as we described, a meet focused on planning, layout designing, and planning for operations. And this year we have a 3-day event, the January 31st through February 2nd, and it's the week between football playoffs and the Super Bowl, so shouldn't have too much else going on your big screen TV if you want to tune in. And the first day is tours and activities up at the venue, which will be the California State Railroad Museum. So if you're within driving distance, certainly consider coming up and spending a day or all 3 days. The second day, which is mostly what we're talking about, is clinics, panel discussions, a layout design challenge, and the program part of of the meet, and that will be held in the auditorium at the California State Railroad Museum. It's a very nice facility right down by the Amtrak station, several good hotels nearby. So great place to visit. And then on the Sunday, we'll be having operating sessions. And even if you can't make the main day of the meet, you can register for the op sessions. So we're going to, the current plan is to have 4 clinics, a layout design challenge, and a panel discussion. We'll also be holding layout design consultations, opportunity at lunch, and this will be virtual as well as in person, to get together and have what we call birds of a feather sessions, so you can find people with similar interests who are grappling with maybe similar issues than you are, as you are in your layout design or operations plan. Some opportunities for sharing exhibits. Those will be mostly in person, but I'm sure we can get John to come over and take a few photos or videos of those to the extent they're there. So the main day is February 1st, which is the Saturday. It'll be at CSRM. The in-person registration will be $25, and you can register and join remotely. And, we've been very pleased and surprised to have some regulars who've been with us since we started doing the virtual program from all sorts of places far afield from the Bay Area, can't take the time to travel or, have other commitments, whatever. It's great to see people from Queensland and Australia and Western Australia even. So
Sure.
Not to mention Washington State, all over the U.S.
We had some people from Canada last time as well. So
lots of Canadians, eh?
That's one of the that's one of the really cool things about this, is that it's not limited to just people in our area or people in that part of the region. Is that because it's virtual, anybody with an internet connection can join us.
Right.
And Sydney and I, and also Hilding this year, we have a team, a media team is what I'll call it, that we try to make it as much like being there in person as we can. And like you're saying, if we have any displays that are there, I can sign into the meeting with a phone and walk over and show them. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is having a really social component to a virtual event. So it's like, you can't be there. The best thing, obviously, is to be there in person. The next best thing is to be there virtually, because there is a bunch of other people who are also there virtually that you can interact with and make friends. There may be people that have the same interests as you that are somewhere else in the world, and you'll find out. You'll get to meet them and hang out with them. And
some of the best discussions go on in the virtual session. But the other side is, if you're participating, we have a moderator. Usually it's Sydney.
Yep.
We'll pick up questions and feed them to the presenters during Q&A.
Yep.
So, for you, the value is about as close to being there as it could possibly be. And I know we've had cases in the past where people have come in the morning, had to do some chore or honeydew in the early afternoon. And, what do you know? We see them on the
Yep.
virtual a little later in the day. So you can come and go as you please in whatever media mode you want to. So we're hoping to have the registration system up by the time this airs. We're obviously, dealing with John's production schedule and running a little bit ahead of the actual need. The website is HTTP, of course, BAYLDOPS, Bay LD Ops, Bay Layout Design and Ops.com/2025/index.html. So that will get you to the site. There will be a link to registration. As more program details become available, we'll be adding them. The museum, of course, has all sorts of interesting things. And most likely that's what we'll do Friday afternoon if you're in person. We may try and get a little video that we can show as a clip later, depending on where it is and what the recording rules are. And, we'd really love to have you join us.
Yep. And to make it easy for everybody, what I'll do is I'll put that link, that long link that you just, whatever it was, in the description of the podcast. So look in the description, you click right on it, and it'll be really nice if you can join us. We have a great time doing this. And I mean, I went for the first time, I think, in 2018, and I've been hooked ever since.
Oh, that's right. That was in Petaluma.
It was.
That was very good. That was actually a good one. And not that we've ever had bad ones, but that was a nice
Well, except when I started coming.
Well, yeah, neighborhood just went downhill. What can you say?
Sorry about that. Hi, we're doing something railroad related once again today. As you can see, we're back at the SBHRS in the passenger waiting room. And you can see behind me, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of stuff in this room. But we've just finished cataloging all the artifacts in the room, and there's like 350 items. It doesn't look like that many, but it's all the stuff that's on the walls, all the stuff that's in the cases, all the stuff that's everywhere in here. And it took about 6 hours to do this for 3 people. And that will give you some idea of just how much work goes into volunteering at a place like this. It's not just, oh, look, mommy, it's cool stuff. All of this stuff has to be accounted for. And that's what we're in the process of doing. All right, so we're just wrapping up what we were doing here today. And I wanted to mention, since this podcast is coming out on November 2nd, today and tomorrow, the SBHRS open house is happening. So if you live in the Bay Area or are in driving distance, it's worth it to come check out what we're preserving here. It's a really cool museum, and you can see all of this stuff plus a whole lot more. So I'm on the Santa Clara County VTA light rail right now, and we're going to go and take Caltrain to South San Francisco. Should be fun. So if you've never ridden Caltrain before, and I know a lot of people haven't, because we get people walking into the depot all the time asking this question, where do I get my tickets? See this machine? This is where you get your tickets. It's a simple menu-driven process. You just follow the instructions on the machine, or they also have an app you can use and just get your tickets right on the app. So that's how you get your tickets to ride Caltrain. And something very similar for VTA. They have little ticket machines just like this, and you can use a credit card or you can use what they call a clipper card. So pretty simple and straightforward. So this is the train that we're going to board as soon as the doors open. It's train 121, going the entire distance of the line, actually, from the southernmost tip, which is what we're at right now, to San Francisco. Of course, we're only going to South San Francisco, but that's the train we'll be riding. So one of the great things about being first on the train, you can sit wherever you want. You don't have to worry about sitting next to other people. You do, because they'll get on later. But we've finally departed, and so we're on our way to South San Francisco now on a nice, sparkly new electric train. She hasn't ridden it yet, so we'll be getting a little response about what it's like from a brand new rider later.
Next stop, Santa Clara.
Okay, it's time for first impressions.
Next week then? No, 2 weeks.
It's a great ride. Super fast, very smooth, and pretty comfortable seating. It looks like it'll be easy to keep everything clean, which the old Caltrain, I think, had fabric seats and stuff. So I think it'll be nice, and it's a great fun ride.
Then again, it all depends on
All right, so it's a little while later, and we're back at the South San Francisco station waiting for our ride home. So what happened here was we came up and had lunch with our friend, who's someone you're going to meet on the channel sometime in the very near future, John Petrovitz. We came up here and met him for lunch with his wife, Cindy. Super duper nice people. And John, I don't know if you watch our podcasts at all, but if you do, thank you very much for your hospitality and for a great time with lunch. Really appreciate it. Boarded the train. We're on our way back home. It's about barely over an hour to where we're going. Then we have to pick up the local light rail once again, VTA light rail, back home. But riding the public transportation system like this was very easy to do and very convenient. With the new increased headways that Caltrain is offering, there was hardly any waiting at all. So, pretty cool. It's a little while later, and I'm just sitting here riding this nice, smooth train, doing 50 or 60 or 70 miles an hour down the peninsula, and thinking, this is a lot better than driving. It's just so relaxing. I don't have to worry about traffic or idiots cutting you off, or just, it's a lot better to get around this way. At least it feels like it right now. So this is an example of the kind of traffic we're avoiding by taking public transit today. It's actually moving pretty well for a Friday afternoon, but it could just as easily be completely stopped right now. And now for this month's catches. Lucas Woodward sends in this amazing video clip of 1951 Scottish-built R-Class Hudson R761 departing Hearns Oak siding, hauling a steam rail special from Bairnsdale to Melbourne on Saturday, October 13th. If you have a catch you'd like to share, please send it to podcast@tsgmultimedia.com. Be sure you own the shots and tell us the what's, whens, and wheres of the shots you send in. Once again, I'd like to thank all of our great supporters and viewers. Without you, creating the content you enjoy on this channel would not be possible. If you're able, join us on the TSG Train Crew at patreon.com/TSG Multimedia. If you can't do that, please share your favorite TSG videos as far and wide as you can using your social media and email. Everything helps. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Shut up.